Best of r/Tales from Tech Support episode 126. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily. The best way to get the right answer on the internet is not to ask a question. It's to post the wrong answer. A project manager asked for a new server, but only gave the CPU and RAM requirements. Along with that, it needed to be a physical server. After reaching out to them for days regarding the drive sizes and other requirements, I still had no response. I got the director involved and he gave some clues as to what this was about. He got me the end users and I was able to contact them directly. Of course, being end users, and not the ones working with the vendor, they barely knew what they wanted. But I made a best guess as to the other server specs and sent the request off for a quote. Only then does the PM respond with a list of corrections about what the server actually needs. Bonus. PM. If we're going to reuse the C card from the current server, make sure it fits in the new server. Me. Are we reusing that card? PM. I'm not sure yet. Time for a drink. Thank you. Next. I promise there's not a word of lie here other than my usual dramatic writing style. Had a 2-hour call this morning, around 7:29:30 am. Because we sent most of our cube jockeys home, and while we provided what laptops we had to use, as most people are using their home machines. This puts the help desk in a position where we have to support people's shared personal machines. This laptop was old, like Methuselah measured in computer years old. Core 2 Duo, 4GB of RAM, Windows 7. And didn't look to have been re-imaged since 2009ish, just to go by the software install and file modified dates. Now, anyone who checks into my post history knows I am a retro computing fanboy. I reburbed an Amiga 600 and a Tandy 1000 just this year. But let's be clear, 11 years old is too old for daily use unless you work for the IRS. A reported issue was that Citrix was connecting, then closing abruptly. Sounded like something was timing out. Mostly blaming her ancient system and likely usage habits, I fired up our semi-trusty remote access tool and was amazed when it successfully connected, after 4 minutes. Compounding the issue was the fact that this woman was a hoarder, not of newspapers, knickknacks or medical prostheses, but of software. She claimed she still needed H&R Block tax software from 2009. She was now on Comcast but insisted that she needed her old Verizon in-home advisor, known adware and resource hog. I removed it surreptitiously while she was yelling at her dogs. Final tally of issues. 5 browser toolbars, 3 different security suites running at the same time, numerous coupon apps, desktop completely overrun with icons, moved the screen full into a folder, hit arrange, another full screen 5 times. 170 GB of photos I had to offload to make enough room to update Citrix from version 4. 6. A 150 GB Norton 360 backup, on the same drive, of said photos, etc. To be fair, after 11 years of use by what could be generously be called a novice's blunt testament to how solid Windows 7 was, it's genuinely impressive that it ran as well as it did, which is to say it was running at all. Aftercare included a quick rundown on why coupon apps are always, without exception, adware, how you only need one security suite, backing up isn't very useful if you put it on the same device, and that the IRS can't really come after you after 3 years unless you're rich or a corporation. Recommended a decent cheap laptop if she chose to upgrade as well, and instructed her to contact her boss to request her work laptop as well since she wouldn't have admin on that one. Highlights include having to mute myself in order to answer Nature's call since she refused to let me work unsupervised, dogs constantly barking in the background, and constantly having to explain what I was doing because this was her laptop so she had to know what was happening to it. I don't have an issue with keeping an eye on the guy working on your machine, but this lady didn't know the difference between deleting an icon and uninstalling a program. Took a longer break than usual after that. Total brain fry for about 20 minutes before I could successfully rub 2 neurons together. Thank you. Next. The recent story about Fatal made me remember a funny name story from my own workplace. A couple of years ago, I was told the story by my colleague over a few beers, so there is some creative freedom in it. Now, my colleague works in our network department, and at this point was fairly newly transferred from our first line operations into the network team, meaning he was the newbie. tasked with all the minor issues as learning experiences. One day, he noticed something weird in our network logs. A reference to a fax machine kept popping up. We haven't even had physical phone lines for at least 5 years at this point. We all use cell phones under a common business subscription, let alone any fax lines. So, he started digging through the logs, tracing the traffic, finally pinpointing it to a specific switch, serving a specific office area. He heads down there, looking around, but can't find anything resembling a fax machine. Finally he asks the people working in that area if they know about a fax here. The answer? Yeah, he is sitting right over there. Turns out, it was a relatively new user, whose initials spelled out F-A-K-S, the local word for fax, and he'd gotten that as his company username. TLDR, network technician searches for a fax machine, finds a human fax. Thank you. Next. Hello all. I work at a software company and a client emailed me asking how he could change the billing contact for our software. We are technical managers, so we look after all the reporting tools and such, but occasionally we'll get requests like these. I replied back saying sure and attached our contact change form. Client replied back saying that this is a complete waste of time and I could be doing something much better right now. Also, that he has never been asked this in the past when making requests like these. Blah blah. I replied back saying, sorry to hear that, but we still need the form signed. Thanks. Thank you. Next. So this happened a few hours ago. I was taking a call from a lady who was having issues connecting to the company's VPN. Me. This is the IT service desk. Lady, hi, I'm having trouble connecting to the VPN. It's not accepting my password. Me. Okay, I'll check on that and see why it's not accepting your password. It was at time that we suddenly got flooded with calls from people. I thought that maybe something had just broken. I also usually mute my phone so I don't have to talk to them while I'm working, but this time I forgot to. Me. What is going on here? I was slightly freaked out at the time about seeing our lines being flooded. The lady on the phone heard me. Lady, I have no idea. That's why I called you. I had to explain to the lady that I was looking at an unrelated issue. It was an awkward moment. Thank you. Next. I am one of those demon tamers you all know and love, a printer tech. On this day, I'm covering another tech's area as well as my own. I have one call 2 hours away in one direction, another 4 hours in another, other tech's area, and a few local calls, all of which are supposed to be done by end of day. My DeLorean is currently in the shop, Mr. Fusion problems. How can it be out of warranty when it hasn't been invented yet? And Scotty still hasn't fixed the transporter. Constrained by the normal laws of time and space, it just can't be done. The 2-hour call is definitely a hardware issue, but the 4-hour one is for a tray lifting error. So, I call the customer. First thing I ask them to do is check the paper in the tray is not jamming the lift mechanism. Nope. Tray is set to the right size. Stop isn't broken, etc. Turn the printer off and back on. No change. I have them open and close the tray and watch the paper level indicator on the front. It never moves. So, out of easy things to check, I resign myself to a missed deadline and a long drive tomorrow. Wait. I have the user take out the toner cartridge. Sure enough, someone had changed the toner and not pulled out the shipping strip. For some reason, on some printers this causes weird things to happen. Trays not to lift, print jobs to hang, etc. Instead of showing an appropriate error message. It's something I've only seen a couple times in 5 years doing this, and it made me so happy to have pulled it out at the right time. Thank you. Next. Hello TFTS. Quick one for you. Long ago at my first job as a consultant, I was around 22 years old at the time. We had a client that I was doing some cabling for. I don't remember how I did it, long ago, but I somehow bumped a cable for one of the APs going from the switch to the patch panel. I was in the network closet finishing up, when my mentor of a manager messaged me, "Manager, hey, can you find out what's going on with the AP on port 3? It is showing a line." Looking at the switch, and the cable going to the patch panel, I realized that the cable was not seated properly. "Manager, have you gotten to the AP location yet?" That better not be the same FNAP that I had to deal with the other day. Me, check it now. Manager, it's back up. Why was it down? Me, I'm in the network closet, and I bumped the patch panel cable. Manager, ah, I see. Don't do that. Me, sorry, geez. I got along with him very well. I knew he was just giving me a hard time for making a rookie screw up.